Greetings collectors and welcome to today's retro game review. It's back to 1991 today to revisit one of my favourite space shooters for the Sega Mega Drive and Genesis. Prepare for all-out intergalactic war in Hellfire. Hellfire was developed by Toplan for the arcades back in 1989, but saw a release on the Sega Mega Drive in 1991. Hellfire came from a bumper outing of games for Toplan during this era. 1989 saw the release of Hellfire, Zero Wing and Fireshark. These releases all came off the popularity of 1988's Truxton, also developed by Toplan. Unlike Fireshark and Truxton, that share a very similar arcade motherboard and ultimately a very similar game style, Hellfire was released as a horizontal shooter, making it the sister game of Zero Wing. Although developed by Toplan, the Sega Mega Drive release was published by Masaya. Okay, so the name may not be instantly familiar to you, particularly if you're living in the West, but perhaps I can jog your mind with the one phrase, Cho Aniki. That's right, that crazy scantily clad homoerotic Japanese masterpiece shared the same publisher. If you need any more information on Cho Aniki, I've previously covered the Sega Saturn release on the channel. Anyway, back on topic, Hellfire. It's worth saying first that I actually prefer Hellfire to Zero Wing. It plays a little faster and the game overall has a little more variation in the gameplay, sound and overall level of polish. To set this one up, I'll read the synopsis from the box. Our galaxy is being devoured by Supermech, an evil force, and only you can save us. Command the ultimate weapon, Hellfire. Through 6 levels of fast action, loads of deadly enemies, you must survive. We're counting on it. So, there you go. Big Supermech bad guy, you as the single fighter, hordes of enemy ships. In short, who cares about the plot? Let's blow stuff up. It's the blowing up of stuff that I really enjoy about this game. There's no pretense that this is a game about anything else other than the action. It's arcade to home action done the right way. Hellfire has a really great hook when it comes to its gameplay. In many shooters you tend to collect a weapon and power it up. In Hellfire you won't need to collect different weapon types as you already have them all. A forward pink laser, a yellow rear laser, vertical green laser and a diagonal blue laser. At any time you can toggle between them to help you best tackle the enemies that will surround you. This isn't unique in a shooter, but this is certainly an excellent execution of the concept. Your firepower will start off quite weak, but destroying certain enemies will drop weapon power-ups, a drone and even a force field. It's a very satisfying game mechanic and the control of your ship does feel spot on. There's certainly challenging elements to the levels, but overall this feels like a very solid shooter. Seeing as Hellfire only saw home releases on the Sega Mega Drive, Sega Genesis and PC Engine, this is perhaps one of the least talked about great shooters of the 90s. I'd even go as far as saying, on the Sega 16-bit systems, it would perhaps make my top 3. Outwardly, the game perhaps doesn't look too special. It's just a really fun experience though, and that's what I came for. To boot, Hellfire has an outstanding soundtrack. Although not as high def as the arcade edition, the Mega Drive chip really pumps out a decent bass line reminiscent of the classic chiptune days. Now this feels like a tune to take on the enemies with. Tracks also make excellent use of the Sega Mega Drive's stereo output. I can confirm that the game sounds outstanding when using decent quality speakers and headphones. Always a welcome addition is that the soundtrack is available through the options menu, as well as options to customise the difficulty, lives and rapid fire. When you're not rocking out to the soundtrack, the game really throws some standout moments at you. As well as sub-bosses, each stage features larger bosses. These fights are particularly creative with thanks to the weapon variant mechanism. It's often easiest to use any bombs that you've saved up, but usually you will have to pick your shot type carefully to take down the enemy. In this case, hitting the ball via different openings in the enemy armour. you'll have to think about the shot type as well as your ship's position. It all adds up to a very immersive experience. It's a great game, but it comes also at a great cost. For a complete Sega Mega Drive edition here in the UK, anywhere between £40 and £50 is a common selling price on the online auctions. You can, however, opt for a North American Genesis release for around the $25 to $30 mark, complete in box, or the Japanese Sega Mega Drive edition for around $20 to $25. A word of warning though, prices for Hellfire and toe-plan shooters in general have been creeping up over the years. Although at a fairly reasonable price today, it wouldn't surprise me at all that if in a few years we were sat here and these were some of the more expensive shooters on the Sega Mega Drive, particularly here in the UK. So, could I recommend Hellfire? Well, if price is not an issue, then by all means this is a really decent shooter. Hellfire remains a firm favourite because it has so much going for it. The soundtrack is great, the weapon mechanics engaging, the enemies creative, and the difficulty level caters to a wide range of skill levels. Hellfire can get quite technical, but it never feels unfair. It's not totally without cheap deaths, but overall Hellfire offers retro gamers a very solid game to replay time and time again. Hello again, I hope you enjoyed today's show and thank you for the view. Remember, you can always comment, like, subscribe and find us on the social media sites below. Happy collecting!